What's up, buddy boys? So I wanted to talk about my throat's almost out. Each race of men struggle and their perspectives in America. Each race, well, put it like this: each race of men that are kind of low key, that are kind of proud of who they are a little bit. They're not cucks in a way. So let's first start off with white men, whatever. So white men struggle, or thing that they all kind of agree, or thing that they see is that they see it like the problem that the whole culture's out to get white men these days. They're the only kind of race of men that is allowed to be attacked on, and all these diversity training and diversity, and the whole point of these studies, the whole point of these practices, jobs do, is just to take out white men from the process. Like, there's an anti-white men propaganda in the society, in the government, and everyone's freely can open bash white men, and so they're the most hated group out there. They also, all their culture has been decimated, so the women from other cultures, the men from other cultures have it privileged because they can go and have insular groups and date their own, and they're not fully out, crazy westernized. But with white women, like, they have sold out their culture generations ago to MTV, to the mainstream, and they've been sold, they've been sold to the devil long ago. It was already over, like, past 1980s for white women in general, when it comes to, like, having a nice loving wife and all that, and all the culture from Europe and all of that has been destroyed. You're not allowed to say you're proud as black people can say there's black pride, brown people can say brown pride, but someone say white pride, and there's someone say that, and they'll get beat up, or they'll get attacked. Nowhere are they allowed to have any kind of white pride. You're only allowed to act like a cucked wimp if you're a white guy. That's the only way that modern wokeness will let you be. So that's the struggle of that I see from white men. Now let's go to Asian men. A struggle from Asian men that I see is that Asian men are kind of the opposite. Like, honestly, low-key Asian men low-key hate the JBW the most out of all races because of their woman, and and obviously America with the dollar being on top, and DXY and America, all that, petrodollar was for years, and China was cucked, especially in the 70s, 80s. So I know things are kind of shifting now, but for the most part, in the past, and even now still, white men they seen white men just like enjoying this privileged status in Hollywood, and then while like desexualizing Asian men in Hollywood, meanwhile their Asian sisters or girls in their class are dating white guys, and like just complete desexualization of Asian men in media, and even bullying of Asian men. On top of that, the athletic culture in America is very NBA, NFL heavy, and Asian men, you can argue whether genetics are not made for that, like compared to black guys or white guys. That's for another video, but the whole culture is like against Asian men. If anything, Asian men in a way secretly kind of hate white men being in power a lot, or the culture of white America, especially like bro football white America is just very different to Asian men, and our Eastern values are extremely different from Western values, and that's been a fight that's been going on since way before, hundreds of years ago. So this is like a rivalry. Like, think about it. Asians are the only kind of group that have been able to kind of act taken seriously by the Europeans, like blacks. I mean, come on, Africa, and then Hispanics. Latin America, not really. So it's always been like the East versus West, and the West has been kicking the East butt for a long time, and even up to now. But so there's this huge, like, subtle rivalry that's always been going, and so yeah, that's like the Asian man struggle, the desexualization, and they're not represented in Hollywood unless they're like some gay King John or whatever, or some gay guy making fun of himself. Otherwise, a typical white superhero. So that's like the Asian man struggle. The black guy struggle in America is that the black culture is dead. Like, the black culture, maybe at one point it was nice and thriving, especially in the 60s and the 70s, the Cosby Show. But then up to now, like, a woman had just gone like crazy, like ghettified, and the single mother birth rate, just giving births to all these Tyrone Lights, Pookie Ray Rays, and then the women are just extremely masculine, and I can see this, like, the women, some of the ghetto women, they're extremely masculine. You have to act like the most uneducated, low IQ guy just to be treated as normal in the black community. They have never really built anything, like companies and all that. Like, they're always kind of on the poor side, and supposedly they had how do I say this, like if anything, infrastructure. Let's talk about infrastructure. Like, whites have had their own infrastructure. Even Asians will come up and they'll invest, and they'll make some rich infrastructure. But blacks, it's really hard, and there's just not a lot of money to give in. When a black rapper gets rich, he marries out quickly and doesn't go back and invest in the black community. But then when you think about it, the black community can't really help themselves. There's just this huge, bad, negative culture that is still prominent. And you have to low IQ max just to live normally. But then even then, a Tyrone will only live so many years. Thug maxing. So it's just horrible for any guy that has any common sensibility to feel proud of being black. That's why the guy Baraka, he said, I wish I wasn't black. I don't feel like I should have been black. So yeah. So let's look at the Hispanic guy struggle. Now, the Hispanic guy struggle, Hispanic guy struggle is pretty brutal. The brown guy struggle, a big part of their creation, for many of them, maybe there are a lot of pure indigenous, but a lot of them, the Spaniards came and raped a lot of indigenous women. They took over their names. They put the last they put the last name and the Spanish last name over it. They they took all their gold. They made, they called them savages, and then they made them civilized, and they changed their religion, and they just had them destroy all their old ways, and then they made a caste system, and in the caste system, the low tiers were the blacks, and then the next tiers were the indigenous, and then the mestizos and the castizos and the criollos, and then the blanca. Even now, if you go there, the blonde is on top. So when they came, the Spaniards, they thought they were like some sort of a god, a bearded god. So there's this lot of cucking in the whole culture. You have to bid, and then when it comes you have to bid thug max in many areas in the States to it's like the problem of blacks, but I don't think it's that bad. It's like maybe 75-50% of their problem when it comes to thug max, ghetto maxing, but it's still a big thing. You have to druggy max, thug max, ghetto max, just to be tattoo max, just to fit in with the rest of them, degenerate max. There's not really a sensible, mature culture there. So there's that, and then and then Hollywood is completely. It's not that bad like Asians, but because you might have you'll have thugs and stuff in Hollywood, but I mean that's it. If you get Thug Max, then great, that's good for you. You have a representation. But other than that, there's nothing. There's nothing really out there. So there's nothing out there for normal, healthy, mature sexual straight representation. There is some stuff out there, but it's sporadic. So and then yeah, so that's the Hispanic guy struggle. What else? This is me trying to get a perspective of everyone. So like, I could be wrong in any one of these on one of them, but try to talk to a lot of people that are black or Hispanic. They don't know much about the other culture, so I like to have a broad view of each of them. Indian man struggle. The Indian man struggle. So Indian men are some okay. So Indian man, you might see a lot of Indian men. They don't keep up. They're not well kept and stuff like that. I don't know, STEM degrees. But if you think about it, when you see a culture looks maxing, that just means that the women are getting harder. Once you see a culture start looks maxing, muscle maxing, hair maxing, in a way it's kind of over. Once that happens, that means it's not easy for when you see a culture where guys are fat, guys are just they don't keep well of themselves, they don't well groomed, they still get girls. That means the culture's pretty androcentric. It's good for men. But once you see a culture looks maxing, going to the gym and hair maxing, all that stuff, then in a way it's pretty much over. But yeah, that's the thing with Indians. Like, I think arranged marriage was important, but no, it's still mainstream, but it's starting to maybe phase out. And the thing is, when it phases out, the next thing is complete westernization and women pretty much choosing the men sexually, bars, clubs, online dating, you name it. So it's going to become westernized, and Indian people, I think, really, well, it depends, but they love the white skin. So so far, the Indian dads really want their daughters to marry Indian men. But once that kind of that strict father culture dies, it's pretty much and then it might be really over, because then the woman, then there's nothing stopping them. And then it'll just be JBW rule all day. But yeah, JBW rule all day, because it's not like Indians in here in America are trying to create some weird subculture where you have to ghetto and Thug Max, and you kind of keep those girls to yourself because no white guy's gonna ghetto and Thug Max that hard. But most Indians and Asians are trying to keep, do the straight edge, and which is good. I think in the long run, I think it's better. In the short run, it's rougher though. Engineer and get good money, and obviously white guy's gonna see it on top. But yeah, those are all the race struggles I see, and trying to keep it perspective. See, I even try to put perspective in the white guy's race, and the white guy's race is kind of, it sounds they're on top, but in a way, like, if you think about it, it kind of is over in their sense. It's over in all races, but in the white guy sense, every culture, every place, Europe is getting brownified. America, like, there's no safe spaces. Like, in all the cultures, you can go back to the root countries at least, but in the white Euro spaces, like, even the European countries are getting immigrants. Like, there's no safe home for them, really, because the thing about the white man is that they are actually more open and more accepting country-wise for immigrants than the Eastern cultures. So, which is their upside, is very actually good for the economy, but in a way it does lead to their downside, as it can lead to accepting just anyone, and then it lowers you accept anyone, and then the people might not be the smartest that come in, and then it might, not the laziest people come in just for a free ride. And it depends on how their children do. And if their children don't do better than the sons and fathers, then the immigrants that came here, then it was a bad economical decision to let them in the first place. So, and accepting, there's not really a root country, because every place they make, like, it gets invaded or taken, and the thing about the white race is a lot of them is just there's no more kind of strong pride about being white and European. So once you take that pride away, you become soy. That's just how it is, and obviously, and that's, yeah. But that's for another video. All right.